Hi, everyone. Good morning. So just a little bit about myself. I'm Mashrura. I'm an assistant professor with the Marine and Arctic Technology Research Group here at Aalto. And what I do is human-centered digitalization and automation. It sounds difficult. It's not that difficult. I have a weird combination of background in a sense. By training, I'm a computer engineer. So I did all my studies in computer engineering. But I have been working in the marine technology field for the last 12 to 14 years. And I love human more than machines. So what I try to do is to make technologies more human-centered, specifically maritime digitalization and automation. And what this means is that while traditional automation kind of thinks of human as a source of error, so if you look at maritime, you will hear things like, well, 75% of the accidents happen due to human error. We actually look at human as a good thing. So we think that humans have values, relevances, and purposes, and they are super adaptive, creative, and they can think out of the box. So all the things that we want for people who are working in safety-critical operations like maritime. So our vision is that we want to make digitalization automation led by people and for people. So that's a little bit about the research. Today I wanted to share also about my journey of how I got here. So usually in my presentation, when I'm sharing my background and what it has been like, this is what I show. So this looks like a person who knows what they're doing, right? I mean, well, this is a person who wants to be a professor, so they checked all the boxes, they did their undergrad, worked for a while, moved abroad and did their master's, did their PhD, all went well, did a postdoc for a while, and, well, finally got the job that they wanted. But today I didn't want to show this. I wanted to talk more about what it truly looked like. So if you are not familiar with Bangladeshi culture, I come from a middle-class family, like traditional middle-class family, where usually like you do your education to get a job so that you can support yourself and then, of course, your family. And it was not different for me, right? So I wanted to pursue a profession that would eventually help me get a job. So, and just to give a perspective of like how competitive things are, so getting into engineering universities are super difficult. So the university I went to, every year millions of people sit for that exam and only 800, like around 800 of people make it. So it was quite difficult. I'm not quite sure why my parents agreed to the idea of me trying engineering because to be honest, I was not very good at math. I liked it, but I was not very good at it. But I'm glad that they said yes. And I put my best effort. I got in. So yay. But then life hit hard. So I moved to a new city. I was living without my parents for the first time. And I was still like kind of riding the high of getting into the university, right? So I was probably not paying as much attention to the study that I was supposed to do. And the classes were like super, like it just seemed super difficult, like it were done at a intellectual level that I was definitely not at. So I was not getting anything in the class. I was struggling and I didn't know what I was doing. And before I knew anything, I was sitting for the semester finals. And I did terrible, and I continued to do terrible for the second semester as well. And this is not one of those stories where, you know, people are just being polite and humble and saying that I did terrible. I really did terrible, and my professor, so much so that my professors like asked to see me, and they kind of did me the counseling that this engineering is really not for you. So you better, like you are still young, you can still probably figure out what you want to do with life, but this is not what you want to do. But you know, like one good thing about not having much of money is like I cannot afford private school, so I have to make it work, right? And I kind of agreed with them on the point that maybe I was not as talented as the rest of my peers, but I decided that, Well, what I lack in talent, maybe I can make up for it with my effort. So I really started to paying attention and work hard. I made some really good friends who were willing to help me with the study, so it worked out well. And I think when I was in my final year, I had access to internet, right? So I know it seems funny to talk about an age where we didn't have internet access, but at that time, that was really a game changer. Like now, I don't have to limit myself to the resources and classes and the professors that are available to me in Bangladesh, but I can learn from anywhere, right? And that was like, I think that is when I kind of fell in love with the process of learning itself. So after I finished my undergrad, I moved on to my first job. It was an okay job, not great, it paid the bills, but the amount of learning happening was quite limited, so I was looking for other opportunities, like doing a master's abroad. And with my GPA, it was not, not easy. I didn't have much network, so that didn't help either, but I kept on trying. In the meantime, I got married, and then 4 months into my marriage, I got an offer from Memorial. So it was also kind of like a very non-traditional thing for a Bangladeshi woman to do, to just leave the husband 4 years into the marriage and move abroad and do things on your own. To make things worse, when I finally arrived to Canada, I got the news that my supervisor did not get the funding for the project that I was hired for. So he did have money for other projects, so I ended up doing a master's on a completely different topic than what I had in mind, right? And while the topic was not an exact fit, I did like doing research. So what I did is I went way beyond like what was like required to do a master's. I helped other people doing their experiments. I looked at lots of data from different angles. I sat in courses that was not required, right? So trying a lot of things. And I think that's how I ended up getting the offer to do a full PhD. And yeah, so then I continued and I did my postdoc. I also wanted to kind of learn how to teach, so I tried that as well. But I mean, the existential crisis was always there that, well, I have a background in something and now I did research in something completely different and my CV doesn't add up. Will I ever make to academia? And the anxieties were real because I couldn't even get a single interviews. Like, forget about the job, but I couldn't get even like interviews, right? And because I was trying so many things, there was absolutely no work-life balance, so it kind of sucked for a while. Then I decided that, you know what, like if academia is not happening, I'm gonna take a career break and look for like other opportunities. So I kind of give a informal resignation as a postdoc. And I thought that I will have a baby, and I will get the paperwork done for the startup that I was planning for a while with my friend. And out of nowhere, COVID happened, right? So then all my plans went to shit. Now, somewhere in between all of this, I did get my first interview, which was at Aalto, and I got the job. So not all bad. And yeah, so here I am, a computer engineer at a mechanical engineering department who talks more about human than machines, right? So he's still confused with a little bit higher salary and a toddler. And I just wanted to show that, you know, no matter what the journey was, this is what that actually mattered. Like, it's not the destination nor the journey, it's the companies that I had along that makes it worthwhile. So, of course, like if I have to look back, I would say that, yes, it was all worth it. And this is what makes life larger than the sum of its pieces, right? And as women, we are often told that, you know, like, be happy with what you have because you can't have it all. I don't agree with that. I think you can have it all, perhaps not just all at the same time. So just a picture of what my team looks like now, right? So wonderful researchers, brilliant women, wonderful human being, and very fun to work with. And I think this has been like the biggest achievement that I can inspire people to, like when they see me, they can think that, well, if she can do this, I can do it too, right? So that has been really good. And I'm not big on advisors, so I'm not going to go what I have here. I just wanted to have a few things that have like some words that have really made the difference for me at difficult times. So if you want to have a look at those, you can have a look at those at the end. But as a parting word, I want to say that in terms of equity, diversity, and inclusion, I have been in 3 countries. I have moved through like enormous amount of like career transition and jobs, and I think that academia and maybe in general the world is still like has a long way to go in terms of EDI. Not a lot of people will understand your journey. Not a lot of people will understand your very own unique struggle. But that's okay. They don't need to get it as long as you know that this is right. And if all of us do our own part that we can do at our capacity, I think we can still make the world a better place. Thank you.